One day I was on my way home from a school party with my friends. Being only 20 years old at the time, we were drinking beer and getting drunk, so we had no idea where the Uber driver was taking us. I remember at that time he took us through a long road called Sano in California, and everyone knew that this was the road that contained a very scary story that many people rumored. But we didn't care too much because we were all drunk at that time. It's 3 a.m. We just want to go home. The car was about to cross this road when the driver stopped on the side of the road and picked up another girl. She sat in the back seat of the car. She said her name was Mary. At that moment, all of our hearts wanted to fly out when we saw her wearing a white dress. She said that her husband abandoned her on her wedding night and tried to find a bus for 3 hours but couldn't because it was too dark outside. She looks pitiful. We also feel sympathy for her. Then suddenly she cried tears of blood. At that time we were really scared. I whispered to my friend Du Manila and told him it happened on this very street and that the girl could be a demon. We were both trembling. As soon as I finished speaking, she looked straight at me through the rearview mirror with white, angry eyes, asking if we were talking about her. My heart wants to fall out again. We asked the driver to stop here, but he insisted on taking us to the location we had requested before. One of my friends, a woman, started crying. After hearing Mary read all of our names in the back of the car, we were panicked and scared, not knowing why she knew and called our names like that. Now everyone in the car is crying except me. Feeling suspicious, we kept driving for a long time, but actually, even after only 10 minutes, the sky started to light up and we realized there was no one sitting in the back anymore. It was a ghost that appeared at night and disappeared in the morning. The next morning, I thought about everything while I was awake, and as soon as I looked in the mirror, I saw the marks on my neck. Currently, I am 21 years old. It happened to us when I was about 9 years old. At that time, he lived with me and had a spare room on the second floor. He is my father's younger brother, so he is very close to my family. We are a family that lives a very healthy and scientific lifestyle. He always wakes up early, around 4 a.m., drinks coffee, and does odd jobs around the house. My uncle also said that he could feel and see spirits because he had a third eye. So that you can understand the story easily, I will tell you briefly about our house. It was the first house built on a street in the neighborhood. Occasionally we can sense something present around the house, but we don't really pay attention to it. One morning, as usual, we woke up around 4 a.m. He came out of the bedroom next to the stairs and saw my sister, who was about 17 years old at the time, holding a cup of coffee, walking up the stairs. My boss said the strange thing here was that she kept looking down at the ground and couldn't see her face the whole time. He asked my sister, "Good morning. Why are you up so early?" But she continued walking up, still looking down. Ignoring him there, even though she saw him confused, my sister walked past him and didn't answer. But he not only thought that my sister must be in a bad mood. Maybe she stayed up late studying, so he ignored her. He continued going downstairs to get a cup of coffee, then saw my mother in the living room ironing clothes. My uncle was confused about why Mom woke up so early at 4 a.m. He noticed that my mother was still wearing the clothes she wore last night before going to bed, so he didn't know that it was my mother. He talked and asked my mother the same thing he asked my sister. Why did Mom get up so early? But my mother remained silent and ignored his surprise. My parents are people who never did that. It's really strange. My mother kept looking down and continued ironing. My boss started to feel like something wasn't right here. Everything that had happened up until now was very strange, so he hurried back to his room, turned off the light, and forced himself to sleep. He tried to forget about it and woke up a few hours later around 10 o'clock in the morning. My uncle told my mother and sister about the strange things that happened last night, but they said they slept all night and didn't remember waking up at 4 a.m. Was very shocked at what he went through. Someone appeared exactly like my mother and sister last night. Well, when I heard about it, I was so scared that I became paranoid that I could feel and see strange things in my house. But I always try not to think too much about it. The next night, my uncle also woke up early, around 3 a.m. He felt something at the end of the bed, and when he opened his eyes, he saw a woman with long hair sitting at his feet. Yes, my uncle was bewildered for a moment, not knowing what to do next. He was so scared that he said to himself, "Nhamrus," and pulled the blanket from head to toe for only a few minutes, but it seemed like several hours had passed. He opened the yellow blanket and looked back at the end but could no longer see that woman. My uncles turned on all the lights in the room and tried to sleep after the incident. My uncle also never saw anything strange in the house again. My family used to live in an apartment in a large apartment complex. In the apartment complex, there was a very large basement. One day, my mother went there to do laundry, and my brothers and I followed. While my two brothers played together, I wandered to a hallway in the basement. I walked deeper and saw bloody footprints the same size as my feet. I suddenly looked up and saw two children, a boy with brown hair and a girl with blonde hair, both with brown eyes, and staring at me. They were probably the same age as me, but there was something strange about them not being like other 5-year-olds. I ignored them, but when I turned around, they were gone. I felt confused. I asked where their parents were, but they didn't answer. I didn't ask anymore and pressed the elevator to go to the 3rd floor. When I turned around, they were gone. I was shocked and quickly told the security guard about the whole thing. Actually, there was a terrible case before. A family used to live in this apartment complex. Because of a certain incident, the couple killed their only child. Now the ghosts of those children are hiding under the apartment so their bodies can be found. Just a few years later, my family moved away, but I always I am a girl who is very addicted to video games. I can play all day long without getting bored. However, my mother always hated that I kept playing games without paying attention to other tasks. Mom often hides my phone so I can't use it. Every time my phone is confiscated, I feel very frustrated and bored. Besides playing games, I don't know what to do, because if I have free time, I will try to find out where my mother hides her phone. But that always fails. The only thing I know for sure is that my mother hid the phone in a special room, full of closets filled with junk that my family no longer uses. This makes searching very difficult. One day, my mother hid my phone again. I suddenly thought of an idea. Why not secretly record the place where my mother hid her phone? And so I will go inside to get my beloved phone. When my mother gave me my phone back because I had to study at school, I intentionally made her angry so she could confiscate my phone. Everything went exactly as I wanted. Before that, I secretly placed the recording device in the room, a place where I could see everything in the room. I'm so excited to know my mother's secret place. Finally, Mom left the room, which meant she was done hiding. After Mom left, I sneaked in and quickly watched the video I recorded. Initially, when looking at the recording, it was 10 minutes long. My mother spent a lot of time just to hide the phone. I started fast-forwarding until I saw my mother open the door. About 6 minutes passed and still no mother entered the room. I was shocked and thought I must have missed the first few minutes of fast-forwarding. I turned back to the beginning and still couldn't see my mother. Unable to be more patient, I decided to watch from the beginning. Even though it was quite long, I had to watch it carefully. Finally, in the last few minutes, I just found myself going into the room to get the camera, but still didn't see my mother appear on the screen. Meanwhile, with my own eyes, I saw my mother enter the room. Or maybe the camera wasn't on Mom, but that's impossible. Mom noticed my unusual silence. I looked very tense, my eyebrows furrowed. Mom asked me what happened. I took the camera and showed my mother the video, confessing and explaining the whole story that had just happened. Mom said maybe the camera automatically cut the film, but something wasn't right. I asked my mother again if she was really in the room, and she said yes. I was really confused, had goosebumps, and felt confused and confused. This is not a horror story I have ever encountered, but it stuck with me. What the hell was going on when the door opened and I didn't see my mother enter and appear in there? Let's write your comments below and let's keep the conversation going. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more informative videos. Thank you for watching. See you soon in our next video. Goodbye.